Good morning. Always wanted to do that. My name's Dane. Some of you may have seen me in the back corner apprenticing to David a little bit. My wife and I have been going here for about a year and a half. We've really enjoyed it. Unitarian Universalism is a religious tradition that values freedom in religious thought and journey. We uphold the unity of our interconnections, connections to each other, to all of life, and to the greater universe of which we are a small part. We affirm the universality of love and hope as we journey together in community, and we welcome you, whoever you are at this moment, and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. For those of you joining us online, welcome. If you're new, please check out our website, uufayetteville.org, for more info. And for those of you visiting us for the first time, you'll find a white visitor information card in the seat back in front of you, as well as a pen. We'd love for you to fill one out so we can get you on the email list. You can find out about upcoming events. We have a lot of them, and they're great. Later in our service, we'll have a time where you're invited to come forward and drop a stone, symbolizing your joy or concern, into our bowl of water. If you have a joy or concern you'd like to share, we invite you to fill out one of the yellow cards in the seat back in front of you. There's a place on there to indicate if you want your joy or concern shared aloud or privately, confidentially, and shared only with leadership. If you fill out a yellow card, you can bring it forward when we drop the stones. If you're online, you can write your joys and concerns in the stream comments at the time, but of course those will be public. If you have need for hearing assistance, our AV Tech David can help you with that. And children are always welcome in our service, but there is a staff nursery available downstairs if you and your kiddo will prefer. Please remember to silence your cell phones as we enter into our service. And that's the end.
Good morning. Good morning. Please join me in lighting our chalice. The words are on the screen and in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to speak knowledge and truth, and to help one another, thus to be covenant together.
Good morning. So nice to see everyone. I'm Kate Kowalski, president of the board of UUFF. As most of you know, we held our annual congregational meeting last week. And I'm delighted to announce the results of the votes that were taken. It was a little bit of an unusual meeting in that we voted on quite a number of things, in addition to, or a few things in addition to our operational budget and our slate of officers. So first of all, I just want to thank all of you who participated in the voting, whether it was in person, on Zoom, or via proxy. As a democratically led congregation, every voice matters. And your involvement, everyone's involvement, is crucial to the effective operation of our fellowship. So I'm truly grateful to each of and every one of you that took part. So the first thing we voted on was a update and revision of our bylaws. Typically, these are reviewed and updated about every 5 years, but we got a little bit off course because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But thanks to the really diligent efforts of a special committee that was chaired by Joanna Person-Michener, Caroline Lennox was on it, along with Edith Bradbury and E. Englund. We're really grateful to all of them, and so our bylaws now are updated to better reflect our dynamic, inclusive, and forward-thinking fellowship. They were unanimously approved, yay, and I really thank this committee for their heartfelt work and dedication. The second thing that was voted on was our slate of officers, and so I'm really excited to announce our acting past president will be Leanda Gavin. I'll be continuing on as president. Stephanie Bentley will be president-elect. Kathy Benton, treasurer. Dustin Cook will be a new member at large, and Dallas Arsenault and Joseph Armendariz are continuing as members at large. And I am really thrilled to extend a really warm welcome. I'm looking over at you, Stephanie, and I don't see Dustin here as our newest members of the board, but I really want to welcome you. I'm excited for us to get started next year, and I want to express my really deep gratitude to Leanda, to Kathy over there, to Dallas and Joseph for their continued leadership. And excited for what the new year will hold for us. Third item on the agenda was the approval of the slate of nominees for the newly reestablished Leadership Development Committee. And again, the purpose of that committee is to identify, engage with, and recruit potential leaders for positions on the board of directors or with other leadership roles on various teams and committees. And I'm delighted to share that the following individuals were unanimously approved. Kathy Shermer, Ben Hilliard, Joanna Person-Michener, and Gretchen Wilkes. And they will begin their terms in January. So thanks again to them. We also voted on our operational budget. It was unanimously approved, so I'm thrilled with that. And finally, I'm tremendously excited to share the results of one last vote, which was overwhelmingly approved. As members, we voted to appoint Reverend Renee Jansky to the role of lead minister and music director, a full-time, 40-hour week, although technically it's 90% time because of some quirks and just periodic breaks with musical, being a rock star, musical engagement kind of person, but essentially full-time. And since September of 2023, Renee has been serving as our combined associate minister and music director, and it was the board's assessment and recommendation that Renee has done a truly outstanding job in both of these capacities, has demonstrated the leadership, commitment, and vision for the role of lead minister. And the overwhelming vote of approval reflects that you all share this sentiment as well, and I'm honored to welcome Renee into this role, and I look forward to our ongoing partnership as UUFF continues to flourish and grow. So congratulations, Renee. Woo-hoo. So thank you again, everyone who participated in the meeting, in the voting. Your engagement is what makes this fellowship thrive. And let's look forward to a wonderful year ahead as we continue to strengthen and grow together in service of our beloved UUFF community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Kate, so much. I want to thank each and every one of you for your trust in me. Thank you for voting yes on this decision to promote me to your full-time minister. It isn't lost on me that this is a big deal for our congregation. We haven't called a full-time minister in over a decade. Thank you for letting it be me. I will work my hardest for you and for us, and I promise to take care of myself and not work too hard. This is a challenging job, but I'm just the girl to do it. I'm a little emotional. I have a 33-year-old lump in my throat right now. It was 33 years ago this month that I took my first ever church job at Second Presbyterian Church in Little Rock, Arkansas, back in 1991. And I'd only been there a couple of months when I realized how much I adored it. That's a third of a decade. A third of a century, 33 years. I think I was around 11 when I figured out that I wanted to work in the church. I always knew since around 4 that I would do music, but I think it was around 11 for ministry. I was attending some terrible Church of Christ, and sorry, it's true. And around the end of high school, I told the preacher there that I was feeling called to church work, and he said that I could teach children Sunday school or arrange the flowers. And I was like, no. I'm feeling called to the ministry. And he looked at me for a long time. I wish I knew what he was thinking. And finally, he told me that I would go to hell if I did that. And that God didn't want me, a woman, to serve the church in that way. And I was thinking, fine, I won't believe in God then. I don't remember that preacher's name. I don't remember everything he said. I don't remember even exactly when that was. I remember being devastated leaving his office, but I don't remember what I did after that. But I never went back to that church, ever. While I remember the important major points, there are a lot of details that are forgotten or at least super blurry. But does that make my story any less important? No. It's my story. My story about my call to ministry. If I were to try and tell it in more detail, tell it more deeply, I would probably get some things wrong or leave out some really important bits. I mean, like I said, this part of my story was over a third of a century ago. But if I got a little bit wrong or left something out, does that make my story less important? No. This is my story, and it's important to my very foundation. It's probably, or at least partly, why I'm here right now, serving you all in this fellowship. Maybe you want to know about my foundational moments as I discovered my call to church work. Maybe you don't. But even if every bit isn't exactly right, even if I don't remember all the details, maybe you still want to know. Do you have stories like that? Maybe your first kiss with your first love. Do you remember that exactly? Like exactly? Your pivotal moments in childhood or young adulthood. Maybe the first death of a family member that you remember. Or when you fell in love with your career path. These are important stories in your life. The important stories in your life. Do you remember every single detail of those stories? No. Does it matter? No. Are these still your pivotal stories without all the perfect details? Yes. So what we are establishing here is that with or without all of the details, maybe even with a couple of wrong details, these stories matter. They matter. Your stories matter. My stories matter. Our stories contain secret glimpses of our future because they shape us. Okay, on to our opening hymn. Our opening hymn is the same as the gathering music. I know some of you might have heard that. You might have heard it in your periphery. It is a traditional spiritual called Rise Up, Shepherd, and Follow, even though our hymnal calls it There's a Star in the East. This piece has an unknown composer. Ordinarily, that's something we would want to know if we can, but this time, that's a detail that we don't get. As a matter of fact, we don't get to know hardly anything about this piece. It comes from the tradition of enslaved people. However, most musicologists that specialize in the field of music believe that this piece is an encoded spiritual. It is a call and response. A soloist sings the call, and the choir or the group or the congregation sings the response. The response is rise up, shepherd, and follow. It's an encoded spiritual because the soloist would change up the lyrics to direct people as to how to escape. Perhaps even escaping to the Underground Railroad. This song's cover is about the Christmas story and the shepherds following the star. There's a star in the east on Christmas morn. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. It goes on like that. So they will sing the solo, and we will all sing the response. So now, does it actually matter who wrote this song? I mean, I'd love to know. Or if we know exactly what escapes that it led to? No. Does it matter that some of the words are different than the original? No. But isn't this an awesome story? Yes. Worth the telling, right? Right. So before we sing it, I will always give this caveat for spirituals. Many of y'all know how I feel about this. For most of us in this room, this is not our song. Not the song of our ancestors. So we will sing it reverently, like we are in someone else's house, because we are. Listening, singing, and being beautifully enriched by the story. A member of the choir, I just said that, will sing the call and you will sing the response, and I'll give you cues. As you are willing and able, especially for this one, please do rise. And you may open your hymnals to number 255, or you may watch the screen, but it's nice to see it in the hymnal. possible, you may be seated. Will you read for us Babushka and the Three Kings?
Good morning. Today's story is Babushka and the Three Kings, a Russian folk tale. The book that you will be seeing the slides from is by Ruth Robbins. Long ago and far away, on a winter's evening, the wind blew hard and cold around a small hut. Inside the hut, Babushka was sweeping and scrubbing and feeding wood to the stove. The old woman took pride in the clean comfort of her meager home. The swirling snow drifted and deepened outside. Babushka's hut felt snug around her, and her warm stove was the center of a cold world. As day turned into night, a trumpet call sounded on the wind. A train of travelers was approaching. Leading the procession was a magnificent sleigh drawn by 3 white horses. In the sleigh rode 3 men, splendid figures wearing jeweled crowns and cloaks of crimson and ermine. Men on horseback followed the sleigh, and behind them trudged men on foot. The procession stopped at the door of Babushka's hut. Babushka heard a knock. When she lifted the latch, the 3 strangers stood in the doorway. The poor woman looked in wonder at their elegant dress, their frosted beards, their kind eyes. What manner of men were these? In answer to her thought, one of the 3 smiled and said, "We have been following a bright star to a place where a babe is born. Now we have lost our way in the snow. Come with us, Babushka. Help us to find the child, to offer him gifts, and to rejoice in his birth." Babushka shivered in the cold. She hugged a shawl tightly around her thin shoulders. "Good sirs, come in and warm yourselves by the stove. I've not yet finished my day's work, and I shudder to go out on such a cruel night. Morning is wiser than evening. Rest here this night, and I will go with you in the dawn." "There is no time to linger, Babushka," answered the strangers. "If you cannot come with us now, we must continue our journey." They turned and disappeared into the storm. Babushka went back to her sweeping and scrubbing. Her work finished, she sat down to a lonely supper close by the stove. The warmth of the fire reached into her heart. She felt a sudden tenderness and joy for the newborn child. What grand gentlemen, those 3. They did seem like kings, she said aloud. It is no ordinary babe they seek. Yes, I must go and follow them. To find the new babe, to offer him her gift, was now her one yearning. This thought turned in her mind like a candle in the dark. Babushka awoke before dawn and made ready for her journey. Into her sack, she carefully placed a few poor but precious gifts. As the new day began, she stepped out into the quiet snow. The old woman hunted for the path made by the travelers, but the snow had covered their way. Stopping one person, then another, and still another, she asked, "In which direction did the 3 kings go, they who were seeking the child?" Neither old nor young could tell her. Babushka stood watching the children at play in the snow, the dogs yelping and dancing around her. But she must not delay. She must push her way ahead. From village to village, from door to door, she went, asking, "Have you seen the child?" Always she received the same answer. No one had seen him. Never stopping, Babushka went on searching for the child, but never finding him. And it is said that every year, At the season when the birth of a child was first heralded, Babushka renews her search across that land with new hope. And it is said that every year, little children await the coming of Babushka. They find joy in the poor but precious gift she leaves behind in the silent night.
So good. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Diane. Wasn't that a great story? Well, this story has a super interesting background. Both Ruth Robbins and Nicholas Sidjakov were illustrators, and they worked together to create this book. Working from a 1907 poem by American poet Edith Thomas. She called her poem Babushka and said it was a Russian legend, and it wasn't. Little Russian children don't know this tale. In fact, it was based off of the Italian folktale called La Befana. La Befana is an old woman or witch that brings presents to little Italian children the day before Epiphany. The day before that's the day before the three wise men supposedly went to Jesus. La Befana had been asked by the three wise men to go with them, but she said no and missed her opportunity and spent the rest of her life looking for the baby Jesus and bringing presents for other little children in Italy. So it's really similar to this book. Wow. Not a Russian folktale at all. Yikes. Wonder if folks knew that when it was given a Caldecott Award. Or maybe, the story is so good that even if the details are really, really wrong, it's worth keeping on the shelf, even worth giving a prestigious award. Even if the poem it's based off of is actually misleading. Does that change the fact that this is a great story? A great book with great pictures? No. We are complex creatures. Are we ever? And we can hold two things at the same time, even if they're opposite. The original poem is a mistruth about it being a Russian legend, and it's a great book. The story is worth it, even if all the details aren't exactly right. Thank you again, Diane. Dane, you want to come up and do Joys and Concerns with me? As Unitarian Universalists, we say that the congregation is the classroom. You know what that means. It's in our interactions that we come to know the world and our place in it. Beloveds, we are in the holidays. Things are pretty challenging for many folks. There are happy parts for sure, but this year feels a little different, a little more harsh, a little more raw. I'm glad that we're here together today to lean on each other and lean into our realities, both the beautiful and the harsh. That's our best option, for sure, every time. Unitarian Universalists believe that it is in our sharing of ourselves, that brave task that creates and grows trust and connection to each other and our world. This is how we come not only to marvel at, but to engage in the depth and movement of the spirit of life, the human experience of the interconnection of which we are all but a part. And so, we must create and hold the space for each other. We're doing that now. Let's take a breath. If you have filled out a yellow joys and concerns card, you may bring it up and give it to me and drop a stone in the bowl of water by Dane. And friends, if you don't want to turn in a joys or concerns card, you can just drop a stone in the water so that the ripples from our stones are interconnected with each other's and with other UUs across the globe this morning. You may come forward. Brenda, will you offer us some music? David, are there any joys and concerns from Facebook this morning? Not today. Okay. Okay, applause all around for these joys. Yes, yes. Hey, Dane. Let's drop some stones for the joys and concerns that we hold quietly in our hearts, because not everything can be shared, right? And, let's drop a whole handful for all the joys and concerns that we might encounter until we are together again, because there's a lot happening in this coming week. Okay, we are going to take a moment of silence, and what I mean by that is an entire 60 seconds, an entire minute, as we hold this ritual in our hearts. Let's take a breath. Quiet mind. Let's take another breath together. Quieting the mind. Thank you very much. It is now time for our offering. if you know me, and many of you do, you know that I love Christmas. When I'm on the road making music with S.J. Tucker, sometimes she introduces us like this. Hi, I'm Suge, and I'm Halloween, and this is Renee, and she's Christmas. And my favorite part of Christmas? Guess. The music. Yes, exactly. Yes, it's the music. Absolutely. And not only is the music awesome, it's extremely interesting. Trust me, it's extremely interesting with rich, varied histories. Today, I'm really excited to talk to you about We Three Kings. It's an American Christmas carol, and you likely know that the story is about three kings traveling from the east to visit the newborn Jesus. They're bringing with them gold, frankincense, and myrrh, each rich and costly treasures from the ancient world, and they're guided by a star, right? We know that story, right? Maybe you even know their names. Caspar and Melchior and Balthazar. Okay, ready? They are the third most represented figures in Christian art. There's Jesus and there's Mary, and then there's the three kings. That blew my mind. Guess what else? They weren't kings. Nope. They hung around with kings, and there weren't necessarily three of them. The Christmas story is written in the four Gospels of the New Testament of the Christian Bible. Only one of those books, only Matthew, mentions the Magi. Yes, it's Magi, not Magi. I learned that this week. Magi. Coming from the east, only Matthew, and it's like a couple of sentences. And yet, they've garnered enormous popularity in Christian art and music. Why? Why? What do we really know about these travelers? We know a lot less than people think they do. This guy, Eric Vanden Eykel, is an associate professor of religious studies at Ferrum College in Virginia, and he does a lot of research on biblical literature and characters, especially how they are remembered and understood by later readers. Fascinating. And when he's asked the question about what is the East that Matthew means when he says the Magi that come from the East, he says it's probably Persia or modern-day Iraq, Iran area. The Gospels are written in Greek, and the phrase that Matthew uses for that part, the East, literally means coming from the rising. So where the sun comes up. That is mysterious. That is mysterious even for Greek. It's almost like he wants to preserve a little bit of that mystery. Probably because he don't know. Okay, Magi. Have you ever heard, anybody, raise your hand if you have ever heard of Magi outside of this one singular context? Yes? Okay. All right. So, not very many of us. Some say that it's magicians. Some say it's astrologers. Some say it's astronomers. The word Magi is frustrating and fascinating in that it has so many meanings. But ultimately, it is a person that does magic. We all know that there's a lot of different kinds of magic. We had some last night here in the sanctuary. It was great. But these figures, these Magi, are seemingly benevolent and neutral. They come, they see the baby, and they leave. So, why did Matthew even put them in? Well, Magi are usually associated. They hang out with kings. Kings call upon them. So religious scholars often think they're there to validate the kingship of that little baby Jesus. Now, y'all, I went down a whole Magi rabbit hole. I could say a lot more, but we have to move on. But before we get back to the carol, I also have to tell you that according to Chinese medicine, from about the time of Jesus' birth, when you blend together frankincense and myrrh, you get a tincture that's used for women's menstruation issues and childbirth pain. So, if these gifts were real, if they were real, we'll never know, but if they were, these gifts were for Mary. We don't know for sure, but in Chinese medicine, this resin and this bitter herb are put together a lot. It's a synergistic pairing. And if you think about it, any birth is painful, but being outside with no supplies and no help, adding difficult circumstances to the already normal pain of childbirth, wow. So we can never know for certain what Matthew meant really, but this information does enrich our contemplation of the scene, right? Which is what good music and art is all about, really. If we are expecting We Three Kings of Orient to be some kind of accurate historical account of anything, it's not going to be. But my gosh, it's an interesting story. What about the star? What about that star? In Italy, they thought it was a comet. And all over Italy, folks light up great big comets to represent it at Christmas time. What star was it? Nobody knows. And in all honesty, some folks believe that it was a conjunction of the planets, or it was a supernova. Some think it was a Hellenistic astrological calculation. Okay, I'm going to try that again. Some think it was a Hellenistic astrological calculation by the Magi, which is why they saw it. But for instance, Herod didn't. Because Herod couldn't find the baby, right? Whatever that star was, the Magi had their eyes fixed upon it. But all people, non-Christians, Christians, atheists, everybody are fascinated with the stars, right? Fascinated with the universe. And lots of folks find this part of the Christmas or Epiphany story very interesting, whether they are religious or not. Why? Well, maybe because stars are a representation of some kind of divine that we're curious about. Maybe within folks' search for a God throughout the ages, even though they couldn't see a God, they could see the stars. We can see something in the universe that is beautiful and seemingly eternal. The star in this story is important. Here's why it's important. Because it represents wonder. Oh, star of wonder. Right? Most Christmas carols, words, and music are written by different people. But not We Three Kings. We Three Kings is kind of rare, but John Hopkins wrote them both. Hopkins was kind of famous. For instance, he eulogized Ulysses S. Grant. He was the rector of Christ Church in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and he wrote, it's my favorite part, he wrote We Three Kings just before his church's Christmas pageant in 1857. He wrote the piece in the treble clef, G clef, meaning that he wrote it for children. He published it, finally, because he had to be convinced to publish it. I'm so glad he did. And it gained worldwide success. Oxford Book of Carols, the most famous book of carols from England, they praised the song in 1928 as one of the most successful and modern composed carols. But he called them kings. He's the one that did it. In the mid-1800s, he called them kings instead of Magi to make his pageant better. To make the costumes better. Okay, let's talk about the music for a moment. So it's in a minor key. Right? Minor. Minor is not happy. Not a lot of Christmas carols in a minor key. It's not joyful. It's contemplative. The kings are, oh, is that me? Gosh. I'm excited. The kings are pondering. They're seeking. They're traveling long distances. Minor key. But then it bursts into the refrain, Star of Wonder, in a major key. It changes keys. There are hardly any Christmas carols that do this. I think it was representing, I mean, I don't really know. I'm just, kind of talking. But maybe it represents the celestial joy of the star. The light at the end of the tunnel after searching for a long distance. Oh, there's so much more to say about this part. I could go on and on, but it's noon. Okay, I gotta tell you one more thing. The fact that it's written in 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is perfect for processing down the aisle as if you are kings, right? It is like literally pushing these babies down the aisle, right? Total walking pattern. Okay, I'm gonna end. What I know for sure is the more that I looked for answers about this story, about this song and the Magi and the star, the deeper and richer the mystery became. The story in this song has a few errors. Does this mean we should scrap the song and never sing it again? Or do we sing untrue songs all the time? Yes, we do. This is a good story, even if it's not true. It's inspired people, lots of people, for a long time. Just what a good story is supposed to do. Like Babushka and the Three Kings. Like my call to ministry story. And on a more important level, like the incredible story in Rise Up, Shepherds, and Follow. Stories are important. They are crucial to our thriving. Stories are important. So I'll quit talking about it, and let's sing this carol, We Three Kings. Now, we're going to have to zip right through this. So, woo! Okay, I'll rise as you are able, and let's sing We Three Kings of Orient Are. God bless you, Jory.
Glory
all of the other verses. But today I don't have time for that. You may be seated. Oliver? Yes. Just a little present, an earworm. That's an earworm for you for later.
Please join me in extinguishing the chalice.
Now, Dana's going to share a couple of announcements, but maybe just the ones that we were given. Y'all can get them, the rest of them in your email that are so lovingly put together by Fawn. And order of service.
Yep, so you can see those up here. In addition, Brenda Parker is putting together her traditional Christmas Day hike. It will meet at Veterans Memorial Park at Lake Fayetteville between around 9 a.m. All are welcome. And then, yes.
Okay, I'll make this quick. Okay, I'm Sherry Withy, and in the past we have started covenant groups here at the fellowship. We have 2 right now, but we are going to be taking some new interested parties. If you're curious or interested in making new connections in a meaningful way, talk to me. And again, this is for the covenant group. We have 2 that are already established, and we'd like to get some new members in our groups.
Thank you, Sherry. Beloveds, what are your important, pivotal stories? What are they? Maybe consider writing them down. These are worth your thoughts. Some of our stories are sad, some are joyful, and all of them are important. And guess what? It's okay if they leave out some detail. It's okay. Or if they have a little bit of wrong information in them, because we're wise enough to hold both of these realities. We always want to look for the truth and uplift the truth. Yes, yes, yes. And some things aren't true. Like our favorite fiction book or movie. Like these ancient stories or Greek mythology or the Canterbury Tales. And we can handle that. And it's okay if you think they're true too. It's okay. We can do that too. But we can handle it, and we can tell the difference, and it's worth it. Because stories enrich our lives. Stories are important. May the joy of the holiday season sneak into all of us this week, and I hope to see you Christmas Eve. I love you. Go ahead, Brenda. Anything.